Oh boy. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm here, I swear. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm here, I swear. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm here, I swear. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm here, I swear. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm on a loop though. Why am I on a loop? Oh, it's feeding through twice. Got it. Alan Mackey, I'm the lead designer on Lord of the Rings Online. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Yeah, they can't hear you. They can hear me, and they don't want to just hear me. Trust me.
Can you hear me now? All right.
And can you hear me now? Ah, good.
Okay, great.
We're solid now.
I hate that my desktop still thinks it should be using a old Bluetooth headset that I haven't used in several years now. But anyways, since Alan did his introduction, my name is Matt Elliott. I go by Scenario on the message boards, and I'm a senior world designer for Lord of the Rings Online. And this is our Shoot the Breeze stream. We pick a topic and we usually kind of just ramble on with it. This week we thought we would talk about gaming as a journey. Lord of the Rings Online is often well known as a game that is more about the journey than the end destination, right? We have a lot of players who enjoy taking their time through the game, exploring the world. And we thought it would be fun to talk about that in the context of both Lotro and just gaming in general. You know, what we experience as far as our own journeys through the game and what you all experience in your journeys. So feel free to drop questions in the chat if you have any of them, and like we can get started. Um, I think one of the things that for me when thinking about journey in a video game is a lot about the immersion of the experience in a game, right? Like if there's a game that you want to take your time with, then I feel like the world of that game has been built well enough to engross you and enrich you in it. Um, and I think with Lotro, anyways, that holds up pretty well. We have people that take their time going through. Like there's some people that probably haven't even left the Shire yet.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Lotro is definitely, as far as MMOs go, probably one of the ones that's best suited for taking your time and exploring the world the way that you want to. I mean, we know that a lot of people will use the Stone of the Tortoise so that they don't outlevel things, and we know that there's been a good number of people that have taken uh, really taken their I want to say their sweet time, but have taken years to get to the mid
Mm.
game, right? To get towards even level 70, level 80 at this point. And when you're talking about the next expansion pack is going to jump us to 160, you're halfway through the game at that point, and you're still not really scratching too deeply into the game. You've got a lot more to go.
Well,
So I
and
mean, I think that's definitely
you've barely cracked Ravanian at that point too, right? Like
yeah, yeah. You're still mostly in
dipping
Erebor,
your
right?
toes into to Rohan
Mm-hmm.
at those levels. And I think I know a lot of people too that the free to play players that will play and they'll play up to the cap of their like unlock content, and then they're pretty happy to jump back into it with a brand new character or to go back to areas that they previously visited and like finish them, right? Like go through and do their deeding, their crafting, and just spend time in the world. And I think that's one of the important things with any game like this is like you want to spend time in the world. It feels good to do that.
I'm just watching
But
the background. I didn't realize that you were going to put Umbar up there.
well, this isn't Umbar.
No, it's the Shield House, right? Isn't it? Oh, I guess it's. Is it the new area?
It is. It is.
Oh, all right. That's cool. So that's the Midsummer area. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
nice. Yeah.
I thought this would be a kind of a good relaxing destination for us to hang out in, especially since now it's finally decided to eke its way towards summer here in New England. I
Eek.
say this, I say this
The
as
two
like
like
a thunderstorm will probably roll through at some point during this stream.
drop the temperature by 20 degrees and move you
Yep.
back in the middle of spring. Yeah, yeah. I mean, just the other day it was what 90 degrees around here.
And
Yikes.
then 65.
Yeah, yeah. And this weekend it's going to be 64, and then Sunday it'll be 72, and yay! Ah, New England, gotta
Mm-hmm.
love it.
So Asirin says, video games have been different things for me as I've gone through different eras of life: college, early career, marriage and family, empty nest, and retirement. It almost feels circular now that I have time to enjoy it again. Always a gamer, though. I think that's as you grow and as you kind of move through life stages, what you want out of a gaming experience can change pretty drastically, both in terms of what is fun for you and like just what you have time for. I think both Alan and I have experienced that when we were working at Turbine. We were just like, yeah, games all the time, yeah. And then we got older. We had our family. We built our family, and now it's just like, all right, when can I get in this little bit of time here and there to play the games that we want to play? I'm just now starting Baldur's Gate 3, 2 years after the fact. So
Ooh, probably like 3, but that's fine.
time flies.
I think
Time flies.
just to Oshirin's point, like it's interesting when I think about it. If I put gaming in the context of my life, I started with Pong back in like 75, 76, somewhere around there. I bought my Nintendo Entertainment. Nope. Then I got an Atari, and then I, with my paper route money, this is so sad, bought my Nintendo Entertainment System and all my games up until I think I transferred over to the Genesis.
Because it does
And
what
then
Nintendo doesn't.
Yes, and then if I recall correctly, I didn't get my first PC until 1999, and within 2 years I was making games, which is weird when I think about it because I played a ton of PC games. I just never owned one personally, So it was one of those things where I never had really done anything with PCs other than play games and do all of my schoolwork and whatnot that I needed to do. And then I got my own, and it was the end of pretty much all things for about 5 years because all I did was play games when I wasn't working.
Yep.
So it's weird though. Like I don't know. Do you get this too when now that you're in the industry and you've been in the industry for as long as we have been? I don't approach games in the same way that I used to. Like
No.
I don't look at them for the same. Like I want to enjoy games and I want to have fun with them, but I can't help picking them apart. I can't help trying to figure out how they do the things that they do within the context of our particular medium and engine.
It's certainly something that I ran into this issue when art became something professional for me. Because once something becomes your job, it becomes a lot harder to treat it as something that is escapism. Because there's always even a little piece of your brain is thinking like, oh, they did this really, really well. Like, I wonder how I can incorporate this, whether it is a design or a practice of how to build something like into your own methods. And so I can certainly relate to that because I used to, before I started working in video gaming, always had a sketchbook with me. I was always doodling, drawing, and I would like easily fill up sketchbooks and then move on to the next one. And then as soon as it became a job, I kind of put the sketchbooks aside because I was like, I've been doing this for like 8 to 10 hours a day. I don't want to do more of it right now. And that can be like challenging, but that also means that when you like hit a game that sparks that like passion and enjoyment for gaming again, like that I think just makes the game even more special on top of everything else. Like I think Borderlands 2 is probably the most recent game that has like done that for me, um, where like it scratched all the itches of things that I really really loved about gaming before I started working in video games, and it just like kept me coming back to it over and over and over again. Um, and even some games like right now, Hades 2 is in my rotation, and I'll play that a couple times a week because it scratches an itch for something that I'm not necessarily doing as part of what I do professionally. It's not the same
Yeah,
kind of game that I'm building professionally.
Blueprints is that for me right now. So
That
that's where I'm spending most of my time is outside of like working on Lotro and playing a lot of Monster Play. Go figure, I'm playing a lot of Monster Play right now. But yeah, Blueprints is
wonder
the
why
one that
that
I'm
could
spending the most time in. I don't know. Uh, but the next one is Clair Obscura. Like I started it and I need to go back to it because it's a really good game. Like the narrative I think is what's going to carry that game the most, which is like you said in the beginning, like a lot of it is the story and how deep it goes. And if you haven't played Blueprints, I'm going to advise you to pick it up, even if you're not really into Myst style games or if you're a
it's
puzzle
on my
gamer.
list.
It's good, man. It's really good. It's probably one of the it's the it's the what do the kids say nowadays? It's the game that your game developer friends. It's the best. It's the favorite game of your game developer's best friends or whatever it is. I forget how they say things about their artists and whatnot. But yeah, it's a really good game. It's a fantastic game.
Well, and I think
There's a lot of
too,
good games in there now.
like I think for me, a lot of what has changed too is like I used to, and honestly, this is really like probably up until I had my kid. I used to be very aware of every game that was coming out and was always excited and eager to participate in like the event gaming, right? Like this big release
Hmm.
came out, I got to get it immediately. I got to play this and so that I can be like a part of the community and experience everything that's going on even if that game is just like a single player game. And I feel like that drive, that need to have that kind of involvement is much lesser now. And I look at my Steam list and I'm like, oh well, that's a 2-year-old game, that's a 3-year-old game. Haven't played them yet. I'm gonna get to them once I find time to spend 100 hours in Baldur's Gate 3. Uh,
See, I'm different than you though. I don't sleep, so it makes things a lot easier for me. I can be up until 3 or 4 in the morning and still be functional at 6. So
I
it
mean,
does make things a little easier. I have more time.
I do remember, back in my 20s, I would often like, and through college too, I would be up playing video games, whether it was Asheron's Call or Thief or Half Life or Team Fortress, or I would be up until 3 or 4 in the morning, and then need to be getting ready for the day 2 hours after that. So it's like, okay, 2 hours of sleep, power down that 2 liter of soda first thing in the morning to just like get me going and get me into the day. Um, Now it is like if I'll go to bed at 1 a.m. is my bedtime and then drag myself up at 7 to help everyone else get ready to go.
See, you need to be more like me. Just keep going until 2 in the morning and get like 3 hours of sleep and you'll be fine.
Oh yeah, easy peasy. No long-term health effects there.
I've already gone through mine. I don't care.
um,
I haven't slept very much since I was a kid, though, so that's just me.
well, and it is hard too when there's just so much content out there now to consume, whether it is video games or TV, movies. Like there is so much that it makes it really hard to prioritize what you're getting into and what you want to spend time with.
Yeah, where
Um,
you want to spend your hours.
yep.
Definitely true. Sorry, I don't mean
You
to yell at
figure it out
everybody, but
though.
I'm yelling.
I just finished God of War Ragnarok. That was my most recent game completion, and both of those games were games that I looked at and I was just like, this is an impressive evolution from what the original series was. And it feels like that game series kind of looked back at itself and was like, yeah, for the time that we first made these, like these were fine, but we want to be something bigger and more important and more impactful. And I think they were pretty successful in that. There were some things that they were, we were talking about how like whenever you play a game as a designer, you're always kind of like looking at things. And my biggest like frustration with both games is they always had these like climbing segments that compared to the rest of the game slowed everything down so much. But I mean I know the reason why those exist. It's so that things can unload and load in the background while you're slowly moving up the cliff face. But the game moves so
Elevator
fast.
sequences.
Yeah, the game moves so fast up until you have to climb a cliff or you go through a tunnel that's like very manicured, and you're just like, this is what's pulling me out of the experience right now. I just had this really intense fight, and now I'm slowly climbing up a cliff while the next area loads in data. And so yeah, it is hard to like not have the game developer hat on when you're playing those things, because I think for me, knowing that's what they're doing just makes the amount of time that I'm spent doing it even a little bit more frustrating.
Yep.
Where I just like I just
Yep.
want to like I just want to whoop right up there.
So there's a question from Raviolin Loisto. Sorry, probably Loisto. I don't know. I mispronounced the name. What is it about playing a game that makes you feel good about your journey in it? Is it achievement of your character, or story progression, maybe discovering the world or the characters, or something else? So you're gonna bartle us, huh? I it depends on what I'm playing, because I think that when you play different games, you're looking for the different
Mhm.
dopamine hits that you kind of want. Um, like I'll use Blueprints because it's the thing I'm playing the most right now. Uh, it's the incremental understanding and solving the puzzles and learning the next thing, and then I like to keep all of that. So a lot of us in the office that are playing it would write a lot of the information down. I like to keep as much as I can in my head and not write a ton down. But that game is so deep that I've had to write a lot more than I normally do. So I've got a small journal of information on all the different things that I've learned along the way.
Actually writing,
So
or is it a spreadsheet?
the book, it's an actual book where I'm writing notes so I can refer back to them because I don't want to have to jump out of the game to do so. So it depends on what it is, but
Yep.
I'd say it's either it can be achievement if I'm playing a game like No Man's Sky. It's like finding something new, learning more about wherever I just landed. Although I don't really play that game anymore. It was nifty, but not my thing. Uh, and sometimes it's just the sweaty achievements. Like I still play Fortnite, even though I hated the Star Wars season. It was awful, and I'm still looking to Victory Crown whenever I can. Like it's a thing, right? It's something that I want to do. That's when I play an achievement based game, I want to achieve. When I When I'm playing something where I want to advance, I want to advance. Like with Baldur's Gate, when I played it, it was probably because I'm a systems designer at heart, trying to come up with the best combination of skills and abilities to break the game in half so that every encounter was a cakewalk. And once I discovered that, it was like, okay, now I need to do something different.
Yeah, I think for me it's the moments of novelty, and having a good spread of that novelty throughout the game, and that novelty doesn't have to be in the same vein, right? Like
No.
the initial novelty could be like, oh, this is such a cool setting, and I'm really enjoying the setting, and then you hit a point where it's like, oh, I hit this point of character advancement. Now I'm doing something cool and different with that, or it's like unlocked new ways for me to interact with the setting and interact with the environment. And I think the games that are really successful for me as far as the journey through them goes are ones that will every few hours hit me with something that feels fresh, that spikes that dopamine, that gets you like excited and engaged in the moment there, and then you're kind of proceed with it for a little bit. I often end up, when I'm playing a game, like I will often end up hitting a point in that game where I don't feel like I'm getting those moments of novelty, and I switch from being like in immersed in the game mode to I just want to finish the game mode. And honestly, I kind of hit that with the God of War games, where it's just like there are all of these side quests you could do, all of these collectibles you could get, but eventually you kind of hit a point where it's like, okay, well, none of these side activities are really providing anything new or fresh for me except filling up a bar. So I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
ready to complete the experience here and move on to something else. And that's something that I've had to just kind of train myself to do if I want to ever have any hope of getting through my catalog of games that I need to get through because of just the time that I have available. But,
But you brought up Hades, and like you brought up Hades and
I
Hades
know.
2, right?
But Hades,
It's
I think
such
that.
like
No, sorry, go ahead.
no, when you get to a certain point in games like that, right? With the especially with Hades, where
Yeah.
every time you get through and you beat beat the game, right? Every time that you get through and you get just one more line with Persephone.
Mm.
Like at what point did you throw the towel in there? Or did you keep going?
So with Hades 1, I beat the game once and then felt like I was done, even though I know
Oh my god,
the
you're
the
killing
way
me with
to
that.
the way to beat the game is to beat it a couple of times. With Hades 2, because of their development model, that's a
Mhm.
game where I feel like I'm incentivized to pick it up every few months after a
Take a
update,
break.
play through it,
Yeah.
kind of enjoy what new things have come with it, and then be okay with like putting it back down because I know they're going to keep continuing developing it. They're going to keep doing work on it, and so I can
Hmm.
kind of feel confident that in a couple months when I'm feeling that itch again, I can go through and do it. And I think with Hades too, with Hades and other games like it, there's that like figuring out the combinations of things that you can string together to make a run better, and you're not guaranteed to have that loadout every single time. Um,
Right.
I'm actually another game that I've been playing lately, mostly because it was co-op, and a friend of mine really enjoyed playing Hades as well, and we were just like, well, let's see if we can find a co-op Hades style game. So we've been playing Sworn, which is based off of Arthurian legend as opposed to Greek, um, and that has one. I feel like playing that game has improved my ability to play Hades, but also the progression on that is it feels less rewarding because once you start going down a certain path in that game, once you start going with a certain god's blessings and whatnot, the game kind of actively provides more of that
Oh,
line
that
to
style
you.
of line rewards.
So
Yeah.
it's really easy for you to
Mm.
like determine what how your end game is going to play based off of what the first couple of blessings you pick. And so it's a little bit less
Interesting.
random.
Interesting.
But it's fun because it's
So
co-op as well. So
that's kind of cool. So Druids just asked a question about, given what we perceive as the vibe in Lotro's journey, based on our experience as devs, what other games have similar vibes in terms of their journeys? I don't think that Lotro has just a single vibe. Like Lotro is it's an MMO, right? And MMOs have multiple different things that they're doing all the time. So there are some people that are just PvPers, PvMPers, right? They're out there playing PvMP, and then you've got the people who are just trying to get toward endgame, and then you've got the people like Matt brought up before that are probably still just hanging out in the Shire. You've got people that spend all their time working on their homes and their houses, and then you've got the explorers. And are there games out there that are like that? Sure, but are there games out there that have the same kind of breadth? Uh, yeah, but I think you have to look at other MMOs for that. I don't think you can look
yeah,
anywhere else to see like direct correlations. Like for different aspects, you can say, this is very much like this game or this game, but you can't just say there is a game that is like a traditional vibe along what you have inside of Lotro. It's one of those things where the larger the game is, like even Asheron's Call, which we both started on, you'd be hard pressed to put up against Lotro and say there's there's more similarities than differences, because at this point, or at the point that we were developing Asheron's Call, there was no real such thing as anything like that was raid based at that point were just giant groups of people all getting
yeah,
together going after the same mobs.
yeah.
Right?
Well,
It wasn't encapsulated experiences and things like that.
I mean, honestly, the original Ringwraith raids for Angmar and Mordor were very much in Asheron's Call style raid experience, right? Where it was just like
Yeah.
everyone pile on the big bad boss,
Yep.
and
Very different balance. Very
it,
different
it
balance.
it definitely gives a mood. It gives like a community vibe to it, but it doesn't mean that it's completely a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, we used to joke all the time on Asheron's Call, right? It was the first MMO where you were playing alone together,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it was. I mean, you could pretty much solo. Like, I think the hero's journey in Asheron's Call was very different because you were very overpowered in almost everything that you ever did. You were fighting off hordes of Ulthoi, whereas in Lotro, yeah, you're fighting against overwhelming odds against maybe orcs, but not at the same level that you have 500 on you at any one time, backed into a corner in the middle of an Ulthoi hive.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would.
so yeah,
If I had to put a game of like a recent game out that I feel like it has that kind of like journey journey is the destination vibe, I'd say Enshrouded, honestly, because
all right,
at least in the way that I played it, it was very much a like I pop in, kind of do what I feel like I want to do at that time, and I didn't feel like I had a pressure to keep going, unlock the next area, unlock the next thing. Like I could just pop in and go like check out this little village over here and raid it for goods, and then tinker a little bit on my house, and that evoked a similar kind of feel to how I feel when I'm playing Lotro, where it's just like I kind of just do whatever, if that makes sense, and like
yeah,
I don't feel like I don't feel like the game is prescribing what my agenda in the space is. Whereas a lot of times,
well,
like
that's fair. Yeah,
particularly in some single player games, like it really is like map note to the next checkpoint, map note to the next checkpoint, and the game is telling you what you have to do and where you have to go.
yeah,
And games
yeah,
like Lotro, games like Enshrouded, or other just like more open ended games let you just kind of figure out what you feel like doing, and then it being chill with you doing that. It's not going to like yell and scream at you to go do the next thing, go do the next thing.
open world experiences are definitely like that. It's kind of nice.
Well, and what the definition of open world is highly variable nowadays too, right? Because
I suppose that's true.
like you look at even Metroidvania games, people could probably describe them as open world games, as long as you have the tools to explore those worlds. So
Yeah, in a sense, sure. I agree, Hellhunt. A lot of it does come down to the social aspects, but I think that's kind of where MMOs have always been. It's it's the people that you meet who influence you, and then who you build up a rapport with over time, and the friendships that you really do forge inside of that game, and the like a lot of it is based around the achievements of the moment, right? And then the stories that you can tell afterward. I know that's one of the things that you and I, Matt, have talked about before. Like some of the things that we've built specifically for Lotro, where we would have those discussions, or we would go in and watch people playing something, and we'd see the achievements that they have, and the success that they get from something. I mean, the most recent one, obviously, is the completion of the raid. At least for me, when I saw them do it, because you could see the frustration that they were going through while they were trying to get to the end of it, and then when they finally beat it, it's that elation, right? It's that
yeah,
we did everything perfectly, we did what we were supposed to do, and we beat them. And the funny thing is that that's kind of the point where, as a designer and a developer, I look at it and I go, they beat me again, rats, right? But at the same time, it's kind of, I think, where the players go, we beat them again, yes, right? So it's one of those things where that's where I get the joy now, is from being a designer, is putting the difficulties in front of the player. And it's the way that I play other games now is I don't normally play them for the super achievement stuff, unless I'm playing something like an Elden Ring or a God of War or something like that, where I just want to get to the end and beat it.
well, and I think too, we also, another thing we talk, and to kind of dovetail into the social aspect of it, and we even talked a little bit about this over the last couple of days about how sticky a game like
Yeah,
Lotro can be, and how either the nostalgic ties or the social ties, or whatever it is that makes you feel good about the game, kind of keeps you in it and keeps you coming back to it, even if it's not something that you are playing like religiously every day for 4 hours a day or whatever. You still have that fondness of the game that loops you back into it every so often. It's like, going to your favorite pizza place for a good slice of pizza, or visiting home and going for a drive through some spots that you remember being in a lot as when you were a kid, right? Like it's
hmm.
those kinds of feelings that a good immersive game can elicit, or just a good game in general can elicit.
Yeah, yeah,
I think the community aspect is, for Lotra anyway, is one of the huge parts of it. We've talked to no end about how cool it is to see people creating their own festivals, the pop-up bands that happened, the events and contests that various community groups run in Lotro, and those are all part of it. I think people in general want to be a part of a community, and I think having those components of things actually happening in game go a long way towards helping you feel like you are in a shared space with a lot of people, even if you're not
yeah.
seeing them all at once.
I think what I like about that is that the the sandbox aspect of the game is really nice, right? At least the way that I look at it. I think that the fact that you have all these mechanisms that you can engage with in Lotro in a social sense really do kind of set it apart from a lot of the other MMOs that are out there. I think the music system being added in the beginning is one of the biggest things,
Mm.
right? Other games have started now to try to draw that in, but I think that Lotro's community is still the most robust when it comes to the music aspect of everything, because they've used it for so long now, and they really have. Like Weatherstock, you're right. Weatherstock is a huge event every year, and you and I have talked about it. We'd love to provide more tools for that particular group of players because we think that there's a lot of benefit for that group of players and what they actually bring to the game because of the social aspect of what they provide. And some people just really want to get out there and perform, and some people just want to see that, right? That's cool. Like I think it's one of those happy accidents that happened from the game that I still look at and say that was just an amazing inclusion, a great inclusion.
Jinjar says, "I love the fact that I can take my characters anywhere I'm brave enough to go," and that's definitely a journey right there.
That's true.
You know,
True.
that is one of the things that I don't get this feeling quite as much when I'm playing Lotro, but definitely in Asheron's Call, I remember having like near survival horror experiences going into areas where my character was not equipped to go into, and that tension made doing that really appealing. You're like, yeah, I could lose all my stuff, but I also like can prove to myself that I can get this far, or Fort Teth is just over this hill if I can just run a little bit faster and dodge the wasps on my way in. Um, so that's definitely, and I think too, like that sort of thing, regardless of the game you're in, is like a personal challenge that you can set for yourself, a personal achievement that's not guided by the game itself. It's just you saying to yourself, this is what I want to do this time, and seeing if you can do it. And I think the consequences for not succeeding in a game like Lotro are low enough that it makes it easier to feel comfortable with trying those things out.
Why?
I think
Because you
that's
don't
part of,
lose all your stuff on your body?
yeah. Well, I feel like that's part of why like the difficulty system was such a success, is because
Yeah, I think it was too.
it put the challenge in the hands of the player. It put the experience in the hand of the player, as opposed to the game telling you this is how you have to play.
Yeah, like I agree. I think the difficulty system, kind of to Schmooze's point earlier, gives you the uh, gives you that slider bar of this game's a little too easy. I want to make it a little harder, and I want a greater challenge. And if you want
Mm-hmm.
that greater challenge, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, there's a couple of comments in there about like how it's kind of unfortunate that the way our game is set up, the way our game is level based, means that it's very hard for new players to go to and experience places that they've seen in the movies or read in the books. And that's an unfortunate drawback of a level based progression system. I think, again, going back to Asheron's Call, like with our construction in that game, like we focus very much on having the towns be generally accessible, and it's just the
Hmm.
paths beyond those towns where things get harder and more challenging.
Yeah,
there were certainly some like Eye of the
leave the
Core.
road. Yeah, but it was really leave the road and you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Stay on the road and you're pretty safe. Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't really have that kind of concept for Lotro, though. If you run and strafe fast enough, you can get most anywhere.
That is true.
A few people have also, like Druid's Fire had just mentioned, a tourist mode, which there are definitely pros and cons to that, because there is a component of finally progressing far enough in a game where you can go to a space safely, and that in itself is a like, yeah, I did it kind of thing. Um, but I can certainly see the value in some experiences of being able to just go as a tourist.
Yeah, we've actually talked about trying to do that at some points too. It's just the value that we see from how difficult it would be to implement just really isn't there all the time. So we kind of we talk about it, we back away from it. We talk about it, we back away from it. Yeah, maybe someday, I don't know. I don't think it's still it's not really a high it's not really a high thing on the list.
Well,
But
and a
I can see where some people enjoy that.
and a system like that does have additional systems that would want to be paired with it. Some of which
Yeah, of course.
I personally would not want to give people, like free camera mode, because
Yep.
oh boy, just like we don't want to really do flying mounts. Free camera mode is another like oh boy kind of thing. Pay no attention to the unfinished landscape behind the curtains.
Yes. Don't go that far. Don't go in that direction. There's a mountain there for a reason.
So what else do we? Is there anything else that we want to talk about as far as the journey goes? Like, I think, when we've talked a little bit about how we approach playing games as we have become more experienced as game designers and just as we've progressed through our lives. But how do you feel like your journey as a game designer has gone? From way back when in your community management days now to your lead designer days, how is that experience like grown and changed for you?
Wow, that's a tough question.
Man, we all start somewhere and
It's
then we're
true.
here.
It's true. I would never want to do the job that Cord does now again. Uh, I mean, you weren't on the team when I started with Asheron's Call,
I was
but
working on
it
a
was
website, a community website for Asheron's Call, but I was not working for Asheron's Call.
there were some really nasty things that were said about the AC devs, and a lot of really nasty things that were posted about them, and it was the rise of the internet during that period, so it was kind of the Wild West, and it was a little crazy. Um, it was tough, like handling that, considering we didn't have direct control over the community either, right? We
Mhm.
we were kind of tertiary at that point because we had to go through Microsoft for anything that we wanted to talk about, and it was kind of difficult to figure out where you drew the line. And I'm not going to say that I was admonished several times, but I certainly ran afoul of Microsoft a couple of times when they were like, "Hey, you can't say that," and it was like, "But we all agreed that this is what's about to happen." And it's like, "Yeah, but," and it's like, "Okay, great." So yeah, that was tough. I think when I took the step into design, though, it was it was only it was weird because I didn't really know that much about other than having played a lot of games, and I think it's kind of funny. I was talking to Steph about this today. You don't when you start off in these things, you don't necessarily know that much about them,
Mhm.
right? You don't know, like what did you know what it was like to make a game when you came on board? Not really. Like you do a lot by learning and by on hands-on experience, right?
I
You
had
learn
to
the things.
completely learn how to use Lightwave. I had never used that
Yeah,
before.
right. Like we both had to use the original World Builder 1, the scripting systems. Like we had to learn all these things, and I think some of us are just kind of naturally. I don't want to say gifted toward it because that's not really what it is, but we have like the natural inclination to do, or the curiosity. That's probably the better
Mhm.
way to say it. Right? We have the curiosity for the things that we need to have the curiosity for. I've always had a good head for numbers. I've always had a good head for balance. I've been able to do that. I mean, I played Magic the Gathering professionally for a while. Like
I
it's
mean,
not like
you
I didn't have the number background, right?
you made the balancing spreadsheets for and generators for monsters and weapons in Asheron's Call, right? Like,
Yeah, because I had to. Like it was by the time that we were getting to that point, we needed to rebalance the whole game. That's kind of what just fell to me to do. So it was fine. Like it was, I've had that ability and I had the curiosity to learn more and more and to continue like learning throughout all these years. I think that, and you know this because you knew me back then. I think what being in the industry for this long and going through the things that you go through as part of this industry is that my temperament has changed. My appreciation for all of the different roles and the myriad things that people do has broadened my spectrum of understanding and given me a measure of patience that I didn't have in my youth.
Hmm.
And I think that's really good now, and it's really good now. Those are really fun things to say, right? I think that it's given me the perspective that's necessary uh, to know when to press on things, know when to step back, know when to revise, know when to know when to stop being a colleague and more of a hey, like we really need to get this done, be more of the boss kind of situation. I don't know. It's perspective, time, and curiosity, just kind of
I,
all mixed together over time.
it's one of those things where it's like I remember back to my childhood and my dad forcing me to help him build the house that we were living in, and I hated doing it so much back then. Like I hated helping him with sheetrock. I hated helping him with insulation. I hated all of it. And then I got older and I bought a house myself, and I'm really thankful that I learned how to do those things. I feel like that's very similar to my experience in gaming, where there were just like there are aspects of what I was doing, whether it was art or design, way back then that I was just like, ugh, this isn't the fun stuff. And then as you grow, you mature, you still can acknowledge that it's not the fun stuff, but having had the experience of doing those things, you can kind of look at the broader application of how those skills can work with what you're doing. I also think
Yeah,
as like frustrating and bitter as I was about getting laid off all those years ago, it pushed me into industries and environments that I had never been in before, and it really kind of made me rethink of how I approach things. Where it's like, yes, gaming is something that is fun. Gaming should be fun. Both working on games and building games should be fun. But at the end of the day, like you also need to create a product. You need to stick to a schedule. And I think having that break from gaming, working in project management, helped me a
yeah,
lot when it came to returning to gaming and trying to like build things responsibly that fit within the time and budgets that we had.
yeah. That's a huge thing. Like honestly, as much as I hated it, and as much as being in the corporate world was not nearly as fun, and I didn't love it. I love this. I love doing this. It helped. That helped give you that extra bit of perspective, not necessarily because it was such a departure from what you do, but I think that's what really gave me the understanding of why a producer is necessary, right?
Mm-hmm.
What role does a producer really afford to you? What role does an executive director or whatever the different discipline might be? What is it that they really provide uh, to you on a day to day basis? And I think that is um, I think that is a very powerful lesson to learn. And I think what it also gave me, and maybe you too, is understanding that sometimes the incremental steps that you can take to improve something
Mm-hmm.
are more profound than those giant leaps.
I mean,
And
I've been living in incremental steplands with housing for the last 7 years now.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
slowly growing, right? Like
yeah,
it's all about you are able to envision the end goal of something and be okay with only having tier one, not having
yeah,
tier three, two, three, four, five, six when it launches. As long as tier one hits your minimum viable and it's still good and fun to play, like it's better to work it out that way than release something that feels like it's missing pieces because you designed it to require all of the pieces, but were only able to do one.
Yeah, there's some of that. I still overreach. I know that.
We
I
all
still
we all
definitely
do.
overreach.
Like
You do.
we all have our ambitions.
I mean, if you lose that, I don't. I think you're pretty much done. I think you always want to push. You always want to stretch. You always want to see how far you can go. You know,
Reasonably
it's
so.
funny, right? To draw that back into the conversation from earlier, how brave are we, right? Like, how brave are we in pushing our technology and in pushing the
Mhm.
things that we can do? I mean, that's kind of part of it is knowing when we have to back off from something. And I think we've the players may not see everything that's been going on over the past couple of years, 3 years at this point, like as we've been kind of moving bit by bit through where we're heading now. And Bull Roar just went up today, and the kinship backend stuff is in there now.
Woohoo!
Everybody should go and test it, right? Make sure that you're changing your kinships out, disbanding them, trying it, uh, because it really is that. It seems like when we say it, oh, that shouldn't be a big deal, but it is. It's a huge thing. Like being able to get that bedrock, that underpinning done, gives us that stepping stone that we now can take to the next
Mm-hmm.
piece, and then the next piece after that, and then hopefully to the point where that whole social unit of the kinship starts to take on the importance that it had before. Maybe more so, right? Because of the different tools and advancement pieces that we want to try to push in for kinships over time.
Well,
So
and I think
it's
that stuff is
all
an
incremental.
important. That's an important step too of getting that functionality in the game as opposed to requiring kinships to use applications outside of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, and some of it is also like the what we can't really expose right now, but what it opens up for the future and how it's giving us some more widgets and dials to turn to give some more information. Um, so yeah, I think it's pretty I think it's pretty cool that we're spending the time on that.
Well,
Uh,
it's fun to see you, and I don't know if the engineer working on it has
yeah,
a
I don't know
forums or
these
Discord
to handle.
presence, but it
Yeah,
is fun seeing coworkers geek out on something,
oh
which is
yeah,
what I've observed in watching you and him work together on this and whatnot. It's like it is fun to see the people you work with having fun, So and then that has the like fun the knock on effect of like, well, now I'm a little bit more excited and happier, and maybe I can channel that energy into other things too. The
don't sell yourself short on this though, because you're an integral part of stage 2.5 ish, right? Like it's not like there isn't a dovetail somewhere down the line with the
I
what we're
mean,
doing on the Kinship stuff.
my greedy ends will eventually come about, but
Yes. So Lobo is asking a question about Orcrist and the what we're doing next to improve the experience. So we're constantly trying to figure out the new and different ways for us to actually update a lot of what's going on there. We're looking into right now what the impact is specifically on the instances and raids and larger group content. We know there has to be something happening somewhere inside of the systemic aspect of things, and we are working through other pieces inside of the company that need to be hammered out before we can really get back to doing that. But once we have the time freed up, engineering will begin looking into that again. It's just going to take a little bit more time to figure out exactly why that's happening. Um, we might end up going back uh, to more restarts, specifically on like Orcrist, but that's not a done deal yet. We still have to talk through it and figure out exactly what the problems end up being, because it does seem to be related there, and we are also looking to see if there could be some kind of a physical issue with the machines too. We're still trying to drill down exactly what the issues might be.
I think there have been a couple of times in meetings where our engineers have been like, there's no silver bullet, there's no one solution, and it's I think there is a degree of investigation and deep dive into things like performance that, while it is not as visible to the player base that that's what we're doing, but the degree that our engineering staff has been dedicating time to those kinds of investigations is more than I think I have ever seen at any point in the history of the game.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely are spending a lot of time on it. I know
Because
it's hard to hear us say that because you don't see a lot of the fruition of the work, but there's a ton going on in the background. It really is.
we've got some of our smartest people on it too, which is always nice to have. It makes me a little sad that my pet features are a little deprioritized, but it's definitely valuable for those people to be spending the time on figuring this stuff out, doing the deep dives, doing the research, and trying to figure out how our game operates best and optimally on 64-bit servers.
Yeah, and fifth field. No, it's really not. So one of the biggest improvements that we've had over probably the past 7-8 months at this point is a much better reporting structure that one of our engineers was able to put in to kind of get, I don't want to say like up to the minute, but it's after the fact, right? We can see where things are starting to fall apart. It's now we're at the point where we need to try to figure out and pinpoint the why. But we do have a lot of better data points that we can filter through and see where things are when they start breaking down. The we right now there's a lot of like the new raid is pinned so that we can actually maintain those in a tighter cluster, and the like the Etmores is also pinned too, and we're trying to figure out if that's causing an issue because of the way that it was implemented. We don't really know, so we have to continue to investigate, figure out what's happening, and then address it as we can.
It all
It's
takes
not
time.
really something
It's
that
not an ideal
it's not really
answer, but it
something
all
that
takes
Matt or
time.
I are really good at. It does, and neither Matt nor I are the ones that are in those rooms. My brain is a different type of brain, so.
Well, we have just a few more minutes left. I'm sure people have tons of questions, so if you have questions that we can answer in a couple more minutes, feel free to drop them in. Otherwise, are there any other closing remarks you'd like to make as far as journeys in gaming goes? Are there any
No,
games coming up that you were excited to journey in and explore in?
I really can't wait to get deep into Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. I've heard nothing but good things, and the first 30 minutes is kind of like a rock your world experience. So I'm really looking forward to playing it. I'm hoping when I take some time this summer, I'm going to have some cycles to get through it.
Hmm.
Aside from that, no, not really. Like, yeah, I'm kind of just looking forward to Superman.
That I
Hoping they
mean,
they
that itself feels like just watching the trailers that is a film that understands its source material.
yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I didn't think that Cavill did a bad job. I really didn't, but I'm really, really looking forward to this new one.
Okay. Well, why don't we wrap up with the question that just went in? Would each of you have a favorite discovery that you've made along the Lotro journey? Intentionally vague, so you can interpret that however. And maybe a second one, and one after that. What story would you want to see adapted into a game? As far as like discovery, I mean, it's hard to have discoveries when you are so deeply involved in the construction of a game. There's not much that there's not much that, at least from the world perspective, that I am unfamiliar with. I may not know everything specifically, but I have a general sense of everything. I think my favorite just random discovery was years ago we had an environment artist who would go through, and his job was to basically go through and polish up the graphics on level 3. Uh, where he would go through, look at the work that the world design team had done, and his responsibility was to kind of go through and polish the scene files, update terrain textures as needed, like those sorts of things. And this was a few years ago when we were getting various regions ready for the legendary server launches, I was doing some work in Evendim and just polishing, cleaning up terrain texture usage. There were some land blocks that had like way too many terrain textures in them, and I was like cleaning those up. And I had discovered that he had made a copy of a terrain texture that was exactly the same as one of the beaches. And he had on that beach, in this copy of a terrain texture, drawn a little heart and put his initials and put his then girlfriend's initials in it.
Oh.
And I only discovered this because I was like, oh, well, I want to make, there are these two terrain types that are the same texture, same color. I kind of want to make a terrain texture that looks like damp sand as opposed to normal sand. So I adjusted the top level one to make damp sand, and then all of a sudden this like love letter to his partner showed up on the beach. And so that was like a cute little like discovery.
That is kind of cute. I don't really have one. I really don't. Maybe that I knew more about Tolkien than I thought I did. No, that's not it. Kind of knew that I knew a lot about Tolkien. I don't know. I don't think I've had like a really cool discovery, and I'm trying to think of like what I'd want to see adapted into a game from a book or a film.
I mean, the thing that I would the story, the book series that I would have loved to see a game made out of, very recently announced that a game was being made out of it, and I am really intrigued by the Expanse video game.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
I love the books. I love the TV show. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the game.
Yeah, that'll be very cool. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I'm really into, they've made games for.
IP is king, right? Like
IP is king. IP is king. I mean, but if I were to really want something, I'd want a true Shadowrun game. With the 3 overlays of the physical world, the spirit world, and the Matrix. Like being able to navigate that. Like that would be the thing. Is a true Shadowrun game from an IP. Like that's not really a book it's just an IP. But yeah, I love Shadowrun.
Alrighty. Well,
I know they've made them. But, yeah.
Sorry, what?
I said I know they've made them before. They just have never really encapsulated all of that, with the exception of the one that was on Genesis. Yeah, we're at time.
Yeah, alrighty, everyone. We are past 4 o'clock, so it is time for us to wrap up. Thank you for hanging out with us, listening to us jaw on about what we like about games, what we like about Lotro, and what we like about you all. So thank you for coming by and hanging out. As Alan had said, Borer is open with some new kinship stuff associated with it. So jump on in and rattle that cage, see if we can get the bolts to fall off of it. And yeah, I hope everyone has a great rest of their week and a great weekend, provided weather holds up. So thank you all, and we'll see you all next month.
See ya.
Have a good one.